Luton Town versus Watford. Rob Edwards versus Tom Cleverley. The Hatters versus the Hornets. Welcome back to the Watford Way. Derby Day is just around the corner. Luton Town versus Watford is arguably the most anticipated fixture in both teams' calendars, and the game is just about to arrive. Before we get into my thoughts on the fixture, I'm delighted to have been joined by Ollie Kay from the OK Football Show, who is a Luton fan, to get his thoughts ahead of the very highly anticipated fixture.
Hi, James. My name's Ollie. I'm here from the OK Football Show, and I'm going to give you some of my thoughts ahead of Luton Town versus Watford. Thoughts on how Watford FC have performed this season. Have we exceeded your expectations? So, yes, Watford have exceeded my expectations. I didn't think you'd be sixth, and to be honest, myself, pretty much everyone who does any championship content, they had Watford pegged as battling relegation. I think not the top 20 guys, they had you rock bottom, didn't they? Yeah, look, Tom Cleverley's done an outstanding job. He really has. And considering the business you did in the summer, which wasn't the greatest, and considering like the players you lost to Spria, and players that aren't quite playing up, aren't the players that they once were, like Imran Loser. Yeah, I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised. But there's still lots of time for Watford to run out of steam, so I guess we'll see what happens. Is this game make or break for Rob Edwards, or has he lost the support of the fan base already? We know that it's been a very tough start to the season for Luton and Rob Edwards. And let's face it, the football hasn't been great. And I've said it on the OK Football Show, the performances have been getting progressively worse. And that sort of culminated against Sheffield United, where, we were lucky it was 2-0. We were absolutely atrocious, especially in the first half. I think there were 19 shots. No, not 19 shots. There were 19 touches in the Sheffield United half from Luton. It was really bad. And what we've been saying is we need to see some fights. There needs to be fight from this team. It's something that we just haven't seen for a long time now. And regarding Rob Edwards, I think it's still 50-50. A lot of people don't think he's the man to turn the ship around. Others are like saying, trust in Rob Edwards, he can do it. But the most important thing is the board still back him. Do I think he's the man to turn it around? I feel if he goes back to the basics, and the basics being what got us promoted, essentially defend well, be tough to break down, and we don't even have to be prolific in front of goal. We just got to be able to nick a goal or two. That's it. Just defend. We just need to defend properly. And that's where I stand on Rob Edwards at the moment. What style of play has Edwards implemented this season? Formation. So at the beginning of the season, Rob Edwards discussed going for a free-flowing, attacking, possession-based style of play. And quite honestly, it hasn't really panned out. In terms of pass completion, we're near the bottom. Like, I think 70% of our passes get completed. And our possession stats aren't great either. They're near the bottom as well. That's why I said previously we got to go back to the basics. However, Rob has kind of favoured this 3-4-3 formation, and then he adapted it slightly. So the 3 up top became a 1 up top, what was really isolated, then 2 behinds, and then a box midfield. So two eights and then 2 10s. Didn't really work though. And then again, Sheffield United, we went to a 4-4-2, but I guess you can't really call it a 4-4-2 because it was just so fluid, but too fluid. Like, no one knew what they were doing. But mainly the biggest problem about that game was passes just weren't connecting. Like, simple 5-10 yard passes weren't going to where they were meant to go. So yeah, so it's most likely going to be I don't even know, to be honest. He's trying different things out now. I imagine it could be a back four again, whether that's a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2. I guess we'll have to see. But the main thing is, I don't want to see Jordan Clark playing up top with Elijah Adebayo again. That was bad. You know, you have the smallest man on the pitch. Yeah, obviously you put him up top, right? And then just ping direct balls at him. But we'll see. We'll see. One strength and one weakness Watford fans should be aware of in the Luton side. Okay, so our strength is down the wings. I had to think about that because there haven't been too many strengths this year. One strength is definitely Alfie Doughty because regardless of how Luton Town are doing so far this year, he's always dangerous. From open play, from dead balls, he is dangerous. He leads the division in chances created so far this year. So he is a real strength. And then hopefully he's going to be playing left wing. On the other wing, we will have Victor Moses. And Victor Moses, he might be 33, but he's still a hell of a player. But we just have to be playing him right wing. And then one weakness, I guess it's just a general fragility. We got to be in games, and we haven't been great at holding on to leads. But we had a 2-0 lead against Oxford, and we kind of capitulated. Oxford are very good, fair play to them, but still, you shouldn't really be capitulating at 2 goals up, whether or not we deserve those goals. I guess another weakness, we're just not taking chances at the moment, but that could come with time. Injury news. So we're all waiting currently for news about Carlton Morris. Hopefully he'll be back for the game. He's in the absence of Tom Lockyer, who, you know, obviously we know his injury news. Carlton Morris is the club captain at the moment in the absence of Tom Lockyer. He's missed the past couple of games since he bagged a brace against Sheffield Wednesday, and he's been out of the team ever since with a slight muscle injury. In terms of other injuries, Mads Andersen came back, and it just doesn't give us too many defensive options at the moment. It depends whether we go back 3 or a back 4. Amari Bell, so he's very crucial to if we were to play a back 4. He's our left back. No, he's injured, and hopefully he will be back, but we should find out more quite soon. But otherwise, it's mostly a clean bill of health, other than Daiki Hashioka, who's been injured for longer than he's been at the club at the moment. But maybe he'll be back as well. I think he could be coming back for this one. But it might be too soon for him, seeing as he's played no minutes. If you want to come check us out on our YouTube channel, we actually cover championship content as well as just Luton Town. Unfortunately, we've had to be quite complimentary to Watford because, you know, you've had a decent start to the season. So you can check us out on YouTube at the OK Football Show. Check that out. We have a round table where we round up all the news from each game week in the championship. We do score predictions as well. Also, because I'm actually recording this on Mental Health Awareness Day, if you know anyone or if you have any low moods or, you know, you feel like you can't go on, the best thing to do is just talk to someone, anyone. If you don't have someone that you can talk to, or you don't want to talk to someone, you want to keep it anonymous, check out Shout. And hopefully with some editing wizardry, it can get put up on the screen, the number for Shout. You just text this number anonymously and someone will get in touch with you, because no matter how low you feel, taking your life is never the option. It's the most selfish thing you can do. Even if you think there's no other thing you can do, just don't ever take your life. Always talk to someone, anyone. A score prediction. Oh my God. Score prediction. So I was there in 97 for the 4-0 at Kenilworth Road. That was absolutely brutal. That was my 3rd season following Luton. I don't want a repeat of that. You've done us 4-0 a couple of times since. I haven't given too much thought to this, but I and backing Luton to stop the rot, find some form, find some fight, and I'm going 2-0 Luton. How about that? Thanks for having me on. I wish you no luck for the rest of the season.
A massive thank you to Ollie Kay for contributing to the video today. And of course, as much as I despise Luton fans, he seems like a top guy. So it was great to see his thoughts and feelings ahead of the much anticipated fixture. This is a big game for both sides for various reasons. Watford have performed way above expectations this season, and we would love to retain our spot in the top 6 after this match. So that is our motivating factor going into the game. Luton, from their perspective, and Rob Edwards really need to get a victory because during the international break, there was rumours, there was murmurings that Rob Edwards had resigned from his position as Luton Town manager. Now, of course, that hasn't been the case, but you'd have to think if he then loses to his former employers in Watford, I think Luton Town would have to pull the trigger on his employment. So massive ramifications for both sides in this one. And also it's a massive derby game as well. It's Hertfordshire versus Bedfordshire. It's the Hatters versus the Hornets. It's Edwards versus Cleverley. It's Luton versus Watford. Other than a playoff final or reaching, the heights of the Premier League, it doesn't get much bigger and better than this for fans of both clubs. So for me personally, as a young Watford fan who hasn't seen many of these games before, look, I am so buzzing for the fixture. I want to cast your mind back to a season or so ago before Luton got promoted back to the Premier League. Rob Edwards was sacked as Watford manager after just 11 games and Nathan Jones left Luton. That meant there was a managerial vacancy available up the road, and Rob Edwards, formerly of the Hornets, took charge at Kenilworth Road. He ultimately secured them Premier League promotion, and they gave it a good fight in the Premier League, ultimately culminating in their relegation from the division. For Rob Edwards, coming up against his former employers in Watford, he really will want to avoid defeat in this game because that could mean him losing his job. Now, Ollie spoke there really well actually about their style of play and what has been and hasn't been working. And I did a combined 11 video about a week or so ago, choosing players from both teams and making an ultimate team between both squads. And he mentioned a couple of key players that Luton have available. Most notably, Alfie Doherty is a player I really highly rate. If you offered me the chance for Doherty to join Watford, I would absolutely bite your hand off. Left back or left wing back in our case is a position where we have some, depth there, albeit the depth doesn't necessarily amount to a huge amount of quality. We have Yasser Larouchi on loan from Sheffield United. We have Ken Sema, who is a Watford FC veteran now, coming towards the latter end of his career. And we have James Morris, who can also deputise in that position, but no one up to the level of Alfie Doherty. So as much as Luton have had a poor start to the season, they still have a fantastic player there in Alfie Doherty, who Watford should keep an eye on from both open play, set pieces, and every aspect of attacking play, really. He really is a quality player. In terms of another Luton player I quite like and I'd like to have in this Watford side currently, it's Carlton Morris, who Ollie Kay also there mentioned is returning from injury and should be available for selection against us for Derby Day. Carlton Morris is a player who in his last championship season scored 20 goals, which is a sensational return, and I believe he picked up double digits in the Premier League as well, which is nothing at all to be ashamed of. So Carlton Morris for me is the epitome of a classic number 9. He has pace to run in behind, he has physicality, he's a threat from set pieces, he's a clinical finisher, ruffles up the opposition when needed as well. So for me, Carlton Morris is another key player I want to highlight from a Luton perspective. In terms of Watford injury news, I'm delighted to say our number one goalkeeper, Daniel Batman, should be back fit and available for this fixture, which is fantastic news. Jonathan Bond has done a brilliant job deputising in his absence, but to have Batman back between the sticks, as much as some fans don't like him, I do think he is a significant upgrade on what Jonathan Bond offers. So it's great to have Daniel Batman back in between the sticks. Jeremy Ngakia should also potentially be available for the game as well after recovering from his longer term absence. Tom Cleverley hasn't yet done his pre-match press conference as I record this video, but all signs are pointing towards Jeremy Ngakia being fit and available for selection against Luton. Other than that, Watford essentially have a fully fit squad with only Francisco Sierralta and Kevin Caben out injured for the Hornets. So from our perspective, from a fitness point of view, unless anyone gets injured over this international break after I've recorded this preview, we are looking pretty good, which is always a good positive thing to say going into a Derby Day fixture like this one. Right, before we move on to the all-important score prediction, I think it's right we also touch on my preferred starting 11. So from back to front, this is the team I would choose to face Luton Town at Kenilworth Road. So in goal, number one, Daniel Batman, returning from injury. Yes, I know Jonathan Bond has been a fantastic number two, deputising in his absence, but Batman is the number one goalkeeper. He was trusted with a new long-term contract just a season or so ago at the club. He is the official club captain. Of course, Musa Sissoko is the on-the-field captain, but Daniel Batman is a leader. He's a senior figure. He's vocal on the pitch. I think he's one of the best shot stoppers in the division when he's on form, and also his penalty saving ability as well I think is really underrated. So Daniel Batman starts in goal for me. In terms of the three centre-backs I'd like Watford to play, we're unsure whether Francisco Sierralta will be returning from injury for this game, so I'm going to discount him for selection, and this will be my three centre-backs to choose against Luton Town. Two of them are must-starts for me in Matty Pollock and Angelo Ogbonna. Of course, Matty Pollock for me would start on the right-hand side of the back three, with Angelo Ogbonna starting in the middle. Both of them players this season have been excellent, more so Matty Pollock, who I believe still has won the most aerial duels and headers in the Championship, which is a fantastic stat to have on your side as an aggressive defender that he is. Angelo Ogbonna, of course, I don't really have any more positives to say about him other that he ages like a fine Italian wine. I think for Watford to make that signing in the summer is a real coup for someone of his calibre and experience, formerly, of course, of West Ham and Juventus, and of course the Italian national team as well. Ogbonna is a player who, yes, he has a lack of pace, but he certainly brings, a vast wealth of experience to that back line. So Matty Pollock and Ogbonna are must-starts for me in this game. The other choice I had was in the left centre-back role. And the two choices I had really were between James Morris, who has played there quite often this season and has done very well, and Ryan Porteous, who can be quite rash at times. However, I think for Derby Day, you want someone like Ryan Porteous on your side. He's a no-nonsense, aggressive defender. He doesn't, shy away from challenges, which I think is really important for days like this. I want to err on the side of caution with Ryan Porteous because he does have a red card in him waiting to happen. But I think Porteous, Ogbonna and Pollock as our back three against Luton will be fantastic to watch. So that is my preferred back three for the game. In terms of the wing-back positions, left wing-back is a pretty easy choice for me. I thought Ken Sema did really, really well up against Ben Doak for Middlesbrough in the last game at Vicarage Road. He was a tricky, pacey winger with various dribbling abilities. And yeah, I thought Ken Sema handled him really, really well. Yasser Larouchi is a player I, of course, really like, but I think for a game like this, you want another experienced head in there, and I think Ken Sema will do a good job at left wing back. If Watford are in a comfortable position in the second half, for example, then what a great option you can bring on in Yasser Larouchi. But to start with his experience and being at the club for such a long time, since back in 2018 now, I think Ken Sema is a fantastic option to start at left wing back for this game. Right wing back is a more difficult position with three potential options to play there in Ryan Andrews, Festi Ebesele and Jeremy Ngakia. I think with Ngakia coming back from injury so recently, I would hold off throwing him in from the start for a game like this, which then leaves it between Festi Ebesele and Ryan Andrews. Ryan Andrews for me is the player who should start. Now, that might be quite a unpopular opinion. However, I've always been a big Ryan Andrews fan since he come through and broke through the academy into the first team. Of course, he has his weaknesses, especially defensively, more so I would say, and Festi Ebesele might be better in that department. However, for me, this game is all about mentality, and to have a player who has lived and breathed Watford for, almost over a decade now, really, since he joined the academy, for him to have come through the system, known about the rivalry and emerge into the first team, I think Ryan Andrews is a player who you have to have on the pitch. To have an academy player who knows what it's like to be a Watford fan, to then develop ultimately into a first team player is something that really shouldn't be slept on. So as much as I love Festi, and I'm sure he'll emerge into a first team player very soon, I think for a specific game scenario like this one, Ryan Andrews should be starting. The midfield, I won't dwell on too much. This is a very simplistic and easy decision for me to make. There's four options to choose from. You have Imran Louza, Pierre Duomo, Tom Bashiru and Musa Sissoko. And clearly I'm going to choose Musa Sissoko, who I don't need to speak on too much. Like Ogbonna, he has vast experience playing at the very top levels of professional football. And then Tom Bashiru is our other best midfield option, really. Imran Louza has failed to impress when given an opportunity, and Pierre Duomo is a young prospect who hasn't really been given many minutes yet. So in midfield, I'll go with Musa Sissoko and Tom Bashiru. In terms of the two number 10s, once again, like the midfield, this was a very simple decision for me to make, and I don't need to speak on it too much, really. Georgie Shakfatatse will start on the left side in that number 10 slot. I don't need to say it too much, but he is one of the best players in the Championship. I do think generally he does need to increase his goal and assist numbers. But in terms of what he does on the ball for Watford and progressing us up the pitch, he is absolutely superb. I don't think there's anyone in the division who can match his ball carrying and ball retention abilities. So Georgie Shakfatatse starts for me in that left 10 role. And purely for his physicality and ability to strike balls from distance, Edu Kayembe starts in the right 10 role for me. If you wanted to go for experience, you could go for someone like a Tom Ince, of course. And I think Rocco Vata, again, won't be trusted to play in this fixture, which does leave it between Kayembe and Ince. And for me, and what I think Tom Cleverley will do, I think Tom Cleverley will pick Edu Kayembe purely for what I just said. He's a massive physical presence. You look at me, how skinny I am. Edu Kayembe is absolutely humongous on the football pitch. Yes, I think his tracking back and positional awareness lets him down at times, but I mentioned his goal threat and the ability to strike balls from distance will be a real key attribute for this game. So Edu Kayembe starts in the right 10 position for me. And lastly, that just leaves the number 9, our striker up front. Now, unfortunately for Watford, we do not have a Troy Deeney anymore to wind up the Luton players. We have 3 players to choose from in Mamadou Doumbia, Daniel Jebison, and Vacuum Bio. And as much as I hate to say it, for this game, I think Vacuum Bio is probably the best option to go with. Now, I really dislike Bio in terms of his footballing ability and attributes. I do not think he really suits Watford at all moving forward for our future ambitions. But comparing him to our other striking options for this game specifically, I think he is the best player in that position to hold up the ball, retain the ball, and then give it to the more talented players around him. So for that reason alone, Vacuum Bio starts up front for me. And then you've also got a good option off the bench in Daniel Jebison running in behind if Tom Cleverley deems that option necessary. So I'm sorry to say it, but it's kind of the best option we've got at the moment. Vacuum Bio will start up front for me in this game. Right, it's time for my score prediction. Now, of course, Ollie Kay in his preview there is going to go positive and back his team. But as a biased Watford fan, I've got to back the boys. And my mind quite nicely is going back to our 4-0 victory at Vicarage Road about a year and a half ago now, I think it was, which was fantastic to watch. It was one of the best games I've ever attended. And you have to remember, as a 23-year-old Watford fan, I've only seen very few of these games. There was a massive period of time, of course, where both these teams didn't play each other at all due to the disparity of course, the divisions we were in. And now we've rekindled in the Championship. These fixtures are occurring more regularly, which is, of course, great to see because these are the games you live for as a football fan. So for me, of course, I am going to go for a big win away at Kenilworth Road. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Watford win. I do think Luton will score, but I do also think Rob Edwards will get sacked after this fixture. So that's the goal ultimately. As much as I hate to say it, and as much as I hate for managers to lose their jobs, it would be kind of low-key hilarious if Watford ended up getting Rob Edwards sacked for the second time in just 2 years. We sacked him after 11 games. He did very well in getting Luton Town promoted, but unfortunately, they've just not managed thus far to get out of the rot they've been in for quite some time now. So if Watford could get him sacked after a thumping win, I think that has to be the goal and aspiration for this game. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 win. Let me know your score predictions in the comments section down below. I'll be here live on Saturday lunchtime doing a live match watch along for the game. I've mentioned before I couldn't get tickets as I'm not in a high enough Watford away group, which means alongside, I'm sure many of you, I'll be watching the game live on Sky Sports here on YouTube. So if you are not attending, please join me here for that. And I'll see you very soon for Derby Day. Bye-bye.